welcome back to Brokers of Secrets. I got something to share with you that I think will give you some great, I wouldn't just say insights, but great motivation to change. Many people have accepted the lie that, hey, you should just focus on what you can control and don't worry about the things you cannot control. The truth is, most of us gave up too easily, too early, thinking that we have no control. So we're going to talk about this today, and we're going to talk about how you can actually gain far greater control on things that you previously thought that you have no influence over. The lie is very simple. You can't control what your clients or your family say to you and their responses. You can't control what people online say. You can't control the weather. You can't control the economy, the market. You can't control what's going on outside of you. You can't control, some even say they can't control what their body does. What I want to challenge you on is, what if you are almost right, but not at all close? What if the things you think you cannot control contains the very secrets to you being able to gain far greater control? Now, you might say, no, I have a decent life. I'm good. I don't need more control. Yes, you do. Most people live a mediocre life, and then they say anything above and beyond that, they say, oh, it's not something I can control. Now, if you're single and you're like, oh man, I can't control when the right person is going to show up, this is the same exact thing. If you don't have a job and or not able to create the success that you want in your business, and you're like, no, I can't control when someone's going to pay or when the market's going to turn. I can't control when the investment's going to work out. All of those things that you think you have no control over, it's just you being lazy, not willing to face the things that would fundamentally change how you perceive reality. You're living a version of reality based on what is consistent with how you have been stitching that reality together your whole life. Anything inconsistent gets thrown out. So if you're like, oh man, I want to live a life of freedom, and you're currently not living that life, that new life of freedom is not something that you could be aware of, even if it was right in front of you. You couldn't leverage the opportunity simply because it's inconsistent with your previous version of reality or your current version of reality. So when you think you can't control whatever aspect of your life so that you can generate that version of you where you live a life of complete freedom, health, happiness, and everything you want and abundance, it's not entirely possible until you are able to change the one thing we call mental filters. The mental filters doesn't just change when you go change the filter. The mental filter changes when your mind actually gets upgraded to think differently, to feel differently, where you actually change the algorithm behind how you process reality. Let's say someone says, I can't control how other people react to me. Yes, you can. Well, you may say, what do you mean? How? See, the person with the most flexibility can always communicate in such a way that causes a predictable outcome. Sure, there may be moments of unpredictability, but in general, if you zoom out, you can still get what you want in general. But most of the people that says, I can't control how other people react are people that are inflexible communicators. They're unable to communicate in a way that's calibrated, that is responding to the people around them and how they communicate. When you think about, can you get the response you want in life? You got to think communication is actually the response you get. So if you have someone yelling at you, if you have someone displeased with you, if you have someone responding to you in your reality consistently in a way that's negative, if you keep getting divorced, if you keep getting broken up with, if you keep getting customers bailing on you, if you keep getting people saying no to you, yeah, there's something here. I've experienced that myself. Things not working out the way I want. I mean, I think that it'd be a lie to say I have never experienced that. And I think all of us can agree we've all experienced some aspect, some degree, some quantity of that. But the biggest difference between the people who win and the people who loses are the people who are going to look at how we didn't get the response we want, look at the feedback, and change how we communicate. The cycle of you thinking through that feedback needs to be faster than other people. Some people will look at how they don't get what they want in their communication, in their dealings in business or relationship. After many years of not getting what they want, they'll be like, oh, there's something there. I'm a common denominator. I think there must be something. Or worse, they might not even notice that. Then they say, I don't know what it is. The world is a hard place. Men or women are jerks. The problem is the world. I've lost faith in humanity. See, the problem with that is that person is refusing to understand they have actually lost faith in their own communication, and they need to change that to regain that faith. With the ability to look at it in a shorter span of time, where that feedback loop comes to your mind and you're like, oh, I need to change, rather than in years or decades. In months, it's better, but it's not good enough. In weeks or days, the best is when you can do it in real time, in the seconds that you're not getting what you want, you adjust, you adjust, you adjust. Every conversation, you're readjusting. And even better if you can do it in the microseconds. If you notice somebody's breathing changes, you're like, oh, maybe the rapport shifted. You need to calibrate by the microseconds or by the seconds. That's how you get flexible. So flexibility has mathematics behind it. Your flexibility is not to wait years or months or even days to evaluate what didn't go the way you want. Your flexibility needs to happen within seconds. Unfortunately, most of the people who use force, I'm just going to say many of the people who use force may not have considered changing how they communicate. Think about every time in your life you've yelled and screamed or utilized force to get what you want, simply because you couldn't have gotten what you want without force. And I don't just mean in communication. What about in life in general? The hustle and grind culture for entrepreneurs and business owners, or even executives and employees, nowadays it's a very popular thing. The problem with that is they're actually just using force to compensate for what they didn't do in the mind. Their iteration process, their feedback loop is far too long, too lengthy. They're not considering the feedback. They're like, oh, oops, 30 years later, my career sucks. I don't like it. I'm going to quit and start my own business from scratch. Yeah, you couldn't realize that 29 years earlier, right? Think about that. See, a lot of people wait decades or years to actually examine the feedback. What's important in our upgrade process is that we teach people, look at feedback every day. Look at feedback every part of the day, every quarter of the day, mid-morning, at noon, mid-afternoon, evening. And if you become more advanced, you can look at it every hour, and then every half hour, every 15 minutes, every second. If you can look at feedback every second, you become incredibly efficient because your mind is readjusting to then decrease and possibly even eliminate some of the physical effort that are unnecessary. See, most of the physical work we do is literally because we lack clarity, understanding what works and what doesn't work. If you don't do the work in the mind, you have to do it in the physical to then learn it the hard way. The people who have the shortest iteration when it comes to that feedback loop, that improvement loop, that ability to take on feedback, they tend to show up looking like they're more humble. What they're really doing is they're just more hungry for feedback, and they are able to improve faster. See, about every year or so, we have a new version of upgrade that's literally been upgraded. We change, we iterate, we improve based on every interaction, every day. And we're always looking for how do we improve the system to make it better. The thing that's happening right now is that AI is going to be able to do things so well that it will become indistinguishable from humans. Humans need to be upgraded. Not then, but now. We don't want to wait decades or years to think, oh, I'll wait till then to change. You need to adjust it by the second now, by the day. If you look at the news, you're like, wow, that's happening in AI, that's happening in technology, that's happening in science. I need to upgrade myself because I feel like a caveman. You'll notice that we will soon be left behind unless we change and upgrade. Now, back to what you think you can't control. Let's get into it. Let's get into a few topics. So, first topic is money. How many of you think you can't control how much money you make? You're like, oh, I'm in this job, or I'm in this business. This industry only pays this much. Well, if you look at my dear friend John Matson, he broke records on all fronts. Have you ever met a fitness coach or a business owner who runs a fitness training or coaching business that has done over 50 million in a year? John's system is amazing, and he's going to keep growing. This year, he's tracking to do probably 75 or more million. If you're in fitness and you're like, nah, this industry, I can't make that much money, that's already your first mistake. See, John didn't have that problem anymore. Now, maybe you're in finance. You're like, the market isn't performing. No. Let me just stop you there. There's always a market that's performing somewhere in the world. Same thing if you're like, oh man, I am in a marriage that I'm not happy. Well, first off, have you considered that how you perceive your loved one has everything to do with how they behave? You may think that sounds crazy to say that, but psychologically, people will unconsciously respond to how you perceive them. Have you ever noticed that you act differently when you were younger and you had a teacher or a friend who thinks you're magnificent, who thinks you're amazing, when you're around them versus someone who thinks you're a complete loser? Have you noticed how you act differently? You were more freely yourself. Now, you may say, William, can I really change my perception if this person is terrible? If someone's like, oh man, I can't accept that they always say this, or that they are always doing this, or that they never take out the trash, or that they're late, or that they yell at me, or they don't respect me. A lot of these things, if you change your perception of them, there is a chance. There's a big chance they'll change. Let me give you another concrete example. Have you met someone that you just like so much? It's almost like they could do no wrong. And notice how they differ their behaviors when they're with you versus with other people. Because people tend to act differently, and they tend to like those who like them. The reason you're in a relationship that you're not pleased with it's because you've changed your perception of the other person to the point where you have disliked them. You may still love them, but you have disliked them. And that person, because they can sense that you dislike them, will respond accordingly. The easiest way to look at it is that they are a mirror of your unconscious. They are a mirror of your unconscious perception of them. What you don't even know that you think of them. And of course, everything that you do know that you think of them. There's an ancient practice that the Hawaiians would do. It's very interesting. So the story goes that the tribes, when they were in conflict, instead of just fighting, they would get together. The tribal leaders would sit back to back and they would breathe. They would breathe together and they would build rapport. And they would breathe together, and when their breath synchronizes, the conflict disappears. See, who says we have to fight to win? Who says we couldn't actually get in sync and align and resonate with each other to win together? That is where humans need to evolve towards. Because with greater technology and greater ability to create change using technology, it can be devastating if we just use force to create change. We all need to join forces in creating a harmonious future by upgrading our ability to be flexible, to look at things we haven't looked at, to consider the things we haven't considered. I'm going to tell you, the greatest limitation is not the things you think you cannot do. It's in the things you never consider doing. That's what this means. Whether you're single, looking for the one, well, you're probably not looking in places that you could be looking at. You haven't considered it. Or maybe you're looking for the most wonderful closing of your life when it comes to business. It could be right in front of you, but you're also ignoring it. You're not paying attention to it because your self-worth is not where it needs to be to close that deal. You don't believe you deserve it. So you delete every signal that the customer's giving you. You delete every hint they give you. You delete even the thought of them. You delete what you could say to them to close the deal. If you're in a committed relationship, maybe you don't fully accept that you deserve what you want. You have witnessed your parents fighting your whole life. So you think that a healthy relationship, it needs to be familiar to you, which is full of fighting and conflict. You see, all these things has to do with what's left out and how you bring it back in. I'm going to give you a hint. Design what you want. And if you took anything away from this, design 100 things, 100 experiences, design the meaning of your life, design your goals, design. We teach how you can design that and upgrade your mind in a week. So if you go to upgrade.com, upgrd.com, and you take our little clarity audit, which only takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes, you should see what you're not considering. And then we'll provide the tool at the end. You can click on it and join our Upgrade Your Mind in a week.